professional wrestling, and he's going to tell us his story today. Kerry, it's great to have you here. We're going to start out with a real easy question. Why did you become a pro wrestler?
Well, first of all, it's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to touching the homes of my many fans out there. What made me start in professional wrestling? Well, Bulldog Bob Brown was my uncle, and he approached me and asked me if I would like to train to become a pro wrestler. And I played some football and I played some basketball, and I was pretty athletic, and I said, sure, why not? And he said, okay. So he introduced me to a man by the name of Tony Condello, and my training started shortly after that.
So Tony Condello trained you?
Tony Condello had a very, very big part in my training. Mat work, I've got to give credit to Puppy Dog Peliquin. Ricky Hunter had a very, very substantial part of my career, where he taught me basic shooting moves, how to look after myself, how to protect myself in the ring, and those two guys were the ones that started me on from my first headlock takedown to my backdrop to crossface chicken wing.
Who did you have your very first match with?
My first match was against, this is 2004 right now. I'm doing this interview, and his name was Bobby Jones, and that was in 1980. 79 to 80. He had two local sons that were in the business, Larry Jones and was Larry and Rick Jones. Larry and Rick. Larry, God rest his soul, is passed on. Rick works for the Manitoba telephone system, and Bobby Jones is still active at this time, and he's working for seniors on parade or something like that.
Were you wearing a hood as soon as you started wrestling, or?
Yeah, they put me under a mask for the simple fact that Bob Brown was wrestling on the card, and we did have the same mug, so I was the Mauler 99 is what I was. The masked Mauler 99. And my first match was against Bobby Jones.
Mm-hmm. Were you the Mauler 99 in Kansas?
No, I wasn't.
So, when you got to Kansas, how did you get your green card? Who got you there, and what gimmick did you use?
Well, when I first went to Kansas City, after Tony Condello, Bob had called Tony Condello and said, is the kid ready? And I had been training with Tony, and Tony said to Bob, he said, the kid's a natural. So at Christmas time, Bob said to me, he said, I didn't bring you a present, and I was at my grandmother's house at the time. He said, I didn't bring a Christmas present for you, but I have a treat for you. And I said, okay. So I said, let's go out and talk about it. So we went out for a beer, and Bob ordered a Labatt's Light, and I ordered a whiskey and Coke at the time. And he said, when I leave here, Winnipeg, he said, you come with me. He said, you start in St. Louis, Missouri. That's your first show. He said, Tony tells me you're ready. That's fine. And I said, are you serious? Stop fucking me around. He said, no. He said, you're a wrestler. I said, okay, thanks very much. And 3 days later, we were gone.
And what gimmick did you use there?
When I went down there, I was Kerry Brown, Bob's nephew, and as a babyface, I was the shits. I was really the shits. I was fucking up moves and stuff like that, and all the heels they they'd look at the card and they'd say, "Oh fuck, you got Kerry Brown, Bob's nephew." So then, I tried to ask as much as I could, keep my mouth shut, my eyes and ears open. And some of the guys came to me and said, "Well, fuck, don't do that. Don't take that leg when it's not there. Don't take that arm when it's not there. And why did you punch me when I wasn't punching you?" So I listened and I listened and I listened, and guys like Ron Hutchinson, Billy Howard, Easy Ed Wiskowski, guys that were in this business 10 years before I was in the business, were telling me, "You can't do that. Don't do that." And I remember one time working with Easy Ed Wiskowski in Kansas City, Kansas. Sold out arena. It was Bob Brown in the main event with Ric Flair. No, excuse me, Harley Race. And I was on the opener. And I had been trained by two of the best people that could ever train you. And I had listened to so many people. And I grabbed his left leg. I grabbed the right leg. I grabbed the right leg and I wrapped it around the pole. He had cramps for about 2 days later. And he said to me, he said, he come back to the dressing room, he said, "Kid," and he grabbed my left hand, and he said, "Work the left." It was great.
Was it hard for you to get a green card?
No, Pat O'Connor had a very, very big part in me getting my green card. It wasn't a green card. Because I would still have it till today, but it was an H1 working visa, is what it was. And what they had to do is back in the 80s, you had to prove that you weren't taking a job away from an able-bodied American. And me being Canadian, it wasn't scrutinized. There was nothing done. No questions asked. I got my H1, and there was no conflict of interest. Nobody even came up and said, "Well, I can do this better than him." So I was given my card real quick.
Was it hard for you being the Booker's nephew?
Yeah, it really was. It really was. Bob Brown in this business was what we would say known as a stooge. He would kiss anybody's ass if he had to. And I remember walking past doors and guys saying to me, guys not saying to me, I hear guys talking in the room saying, who do you have tonight?" "Oh, I got that fucking stooge, Bob's nephew." And I was able to look after myself. You know, I'm a big guy,
yeah.
But I just, you know, I walked by it and just took it, and then went out there, and I took I got my digs in. When I was making a comeback as a babyface, when I was making comeback, and I was giving guys some hip tosses or backdrops or something, as I picked them up, I'd say, "Bob Brown wouldn't give you that, would he?" I'm not his stooge. And eventually, I was accepted into the clique of the guys.
Yeah.
For the simple fact that Bob Geigel, who was the promoter at the time, he wanted to leave early with Bob. Bob and Bob Geigel were always exclusive, like bed partners. And he called Billy Howard. And he said, "Billy, I want you to pick up Kerry Brown, 910 Pennsylvania Avenue, and take him to St. Louis. And then you guys you're going to do Osceola the next day, Illinois." He said, "And then you're coming back, and then Monday you're off, and then Tuesday you have Topeka." Okay. And so they come and pick me up. Well, the night before, I went out and I had met some friends there, and I picked up a little bit of weed, and a little bit of blow and stuff like that. So the next day, these guys picked me up, and they put me in the back seat, and I'm going, something's really fucking wrong here, really wrong. I mean, they stop and they walk away from the car, and I know they're smoking a doobie. So it was so funny because they ran out. Easy Ed Wiskowski and Billy Howard, you were sitting in the front seat. You ran out. And I said to you guys on the way back from St. Louis, on the way back from Osceola, I said to you guys, would you like a joint? And they said, yeah, we would, but we don't have. I said, I reached into my sock and I pulled up that bag. You'll never forget the look on Easy Ed Wiskowski's face when I gave it to him, and I said, hey, you can trust me. I said, I'm not Bob Brown's stooge. And from that day on, the atmosphere that was in the vehicle, the dressing room, and even the way these guys worked with me, they gave me something instead of eating me up.
Yeah.
They started to give me something. And you know what? I started to turn into not a bad wrestler.
Yeah. What was Harley like with you? Harley Race?
Harley Race was, in the limited times that I met him, I would have to, when I first met him, he's part owner of Capital Sports. And the first time I met him, I shook his hand, and he was big as big could be. He was bigger than me. You know, I'm looking at that time, 5 times world champion. Never did I think I would have to wrestle him within a week. So I fucking was in Jefferson City, Missouri. The main event was Harley Race against Rufus R. Jones, God rest his soul. The semi-main was Bulldog Bob Brown, Kerry Brown, against, we were against, at that time, I don't quote me on this, I think it was Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels at that time. I could be wrong, but I think it was. So when we finished the match, Bob took the fall on Jannetty, and we got back to the dressing room, and I'm sitting there, and the guys come back and said, hell of a match. And they always did that when Bob was in the tag, because...
Baby facing him.
Yeah, baby facing, kissing his ass. And I'm going, yeah, thanks a lot, guys, you know, not a big thing. And Bob said, get fucking dressed, let's get dressed. And the main event's just going in. Harley Race against Rufus R. Jones. So we leave Jefferson City, Missouri, and we picked up our beer. So we had maybe an 18-pack between the two of us, and a bottle of rye. And we're about 70 miles down the road. And all of a sudden, you could see these lights pulling up behind us. Bob's going, holy fuck. And I'm going, what? And all of a sudden, bam, back of the car that Bob had rented, because prior, we were in a car crash 2 days before that, totaled Bob's Cadillac. So we had to rent a car. So I look back, and there's Harley Race, and he's in his Jeep Wagoneer, and he's pounding Bob from behind, just smacking him. So he finally gets close up to Bob, and he pushes Bob up to almost 99 miles an hour. And Bob's just white-knuckled, holding on to the wheel, and I'm laughing my head off, and I got shit for it after. He said, "You could have killed us." So finally Harley pulls back. Bob stops. He gets out and he looks at the back of the car, and the tail lights are all smashed both sides because Harley's vehicle is much higher than Bob's.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Harley, what the fuck?" And Bob throws down his can of beer. And the next thing I know, I hear boom, boom, boom. And there's fucking Harley with a 44 Magnum fucking blowing that fucking can. And I mean, the can never touched the ground after the first hit. He hit it 3 times after that. And Bob was standing there and he just turned white. And then Harley said to me, he said, "Here, have a couple beers." I never heard the end of that till the next day. Next day we're in the office. I brought the coffee up for Geigel and Bob. He's telling the Harley race story from Jefferson City. Harley comes in, writes a check for $2,000. Here, Bob. Hands him a check. Pay for the damages in the car and pain and suffering, he said. And Bob says to me, "What the fuck are you laughing at?" I said, "Because it was funny, Bob." That's my story with Harley Race. I have another one that maybe next time.
Did Harley and Bob get along?
Yeah, they did. They had conflicting interest with their. See, Harley had a share in Mushnick's St. Louis thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when you brought the Harlem Globetrotters in to Sam Mushnick's arena, Mushnick and Harley, they had conflicting interests in everything. They had interests in every show that was run there. That's where Harley made a lot of his money. Mm-hmm. But Harley had the say in a lot of the main events that were shown. And I mean, we had 6,000-7,000 people, and we were never under 4,200 people, never, in that arena. And Harley always had a say about it. But Bob had mentioned a couple times when Vince McMahon Sr. was alive, they brought Bob Backlund in. Mm-hmm. And Ric Flair was the champ at the time, and they wanted this big show between the WWF and the NWA, and they had a match.
It'd go Broadway, right?
Pardon?
It'd go Broadway.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
It went Broadway. It was. I think it was 60 minutes at. It went a 60-minute Broadway, but Harley was to face the winner of that match. And now that they do promos and stuff like that on the WWE, back then, Harley walked out and grabbed the mic from the announcer and walked to the ring and said, "I want the winner." And who was the winner? It was a Broadway. Well, somebody's self-disclaimed winner was Ric Flair. Yeah. And that following month, Harley beat Ric Flair for the championship.
Did you get a chance to work with Pat O'Connor?
I worked with him briefly. I guess I worked with him maybe 4 to 5 times before he died.
Mm-hmm. How's he towards protecting the business?
He is straight shooter. I mean, this guy is like stone cold. I mean, he will protect it till the day he dies. I remember when Pat was in his drinking days, being in a bar, and somebody saying that, you phony, everybody gets it, you phony motherfuckers, you cocksuckers, fuck. I can remember Pat saying, "Hey, Bledger, come here, I want to talk to you." Pat and this guy going into the bathroom, and only Pat coming out. And Bob Brown said, "Pat, what'd you do?" He said, cocksucker, he fell. Okay, he fell. Now what he did, he went in there, he hooked him up, put him to sleep. Pat O'Connor was the sleeper expert of the fucking people. Of any wrestler in this world, Pat O'Connor could knock you out in less than 3 seconds.
What about Flair? Did you get a chance to work with him? He was working that territory too.
Yeah, I never really had the chance to, we were tag team partners.
Mm-hmm.
Never had a chance to work him one-on-one, but I learned quite a bit and so much from him. Because you watch his chemistry in the ring, it's unbelievable. Even guys today, guys like yourself, you watch Ric Flair, and you're learning something about this business.
Yeah.
And about this business, WWE, you can watch WWE, and you can watch the Guerreros and stuff like that, do the Mexican moves and stuff like that, the flying stuff. I was never a flyer, never. But I would, if you wanted old school, I could put you in a headlock, keep you in a headlock for 45 minutes, and at the end of that match, I could have people throwing chairs in the ring. And that's the same way Ric Flair is. Mm-hmm. That's the same stuff that I learned off of him. You guys may not see it, but if you sit back and you watch how methodical he is, psychologically he is, every move means something. And every move always comes to the end.
Yeah.
For the finish.
Kansas City was bringing in a lot of foreign talents. I think they brought in Masachono, Mr. Pogo. Did you get a chance to work with any of those guys?
I didn't get a chance. Pogo, me and Pogo were Missouri Heavyweight Champions, tag team. That was Pogo. But he would, and that's at that time I was Super Destroyer. Mm-hmm. And
Chono was teaming with Bob, I think. They did a gimmick.
Yeah, but when Chono was with Bob, me and Pogo, we were out of Kansas City.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were in Oklahoma, we were in Texas, mm-hmm. and when I got back to Kansas City, Chono had already gone. But Harley Race was the one that brought Chono in, because Harley had been doing Japanese tours, and he'd bring the young boys, and they, just swap talent, which was good.
Yeah, oh yeah. Eddie Gilbert was starting out around the same time you did. Did you guys work together? Was it the same territory?
Yeah. This is prior to Mr. Pogo. Me and Eddie Gilbert, we started out, and Pat O'Connor, God rest his soul, Pat O'Connor was the one that got us. He every Thursday at about 2 o'clock, it didn't fail. He'd pick us up, or Eddie'd pick me up. We'd go down and we'd do some moves in the ring, because it was set up at the Kansas City Memorial Hall. And he was just a skinny little guy. Well, of course I was too. I was 195 pounds. Mm-hmm. I was same height, but Eddie was just a bit smaller than me. So we worked on double teaming moves, and Eddie, I would take Eddie and I'd throw him over the top rope. Mm-hmm. And then he'd come back and I'd catapult him, and he'd come off with a crossbody and beat the guys, stuff like that. And Pat loved this stuff. We did nip-ups, we did off the rope, top rope stuff, and which was good, really good. And then Bob, well, of course, Bob Brown was around, and we were the young tag team. The tag team that came in after us was Jannetty and Shawn Michaels. They came in. Shawn Michaels had his 14th match in Kansas City. But me and Eddie at the time were doing okay. And then Eddie left. He left. And I'd only seen him on tapes out of Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got the call. He got the call. Everyone waits for that call.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon. He got the call, and he was scheduled. I think he made one TV debut, and he was heading from New York to Nashville,
Yeah.
and he was killed in a car accident. And that's the last time I had ever heard of Eddie again. Bob had talked to Eddie's dad,
Mm-hmm.
and Bob and Missy Hyatt were
Yeah.
good friends, and he was married to Missy at the
Yeah,
time.
for a while, yeah.
And when the accident happened, just a couple calls after that, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we never really. I never went to the funeral, and I don't think he would have would have even known if I was there. But
Yeah, I know what you mean. How did you get your start in Stampede Wrestling?
well, me and Bob were sharing a room, sharing an apartment together, and he said, "You've been here now for a year and a half in Kansas, Missouri." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay." He said, "I called Stu Hart." He said, "I got you booked up there." And I said, "Okay." Got me booked up. Booked up in Calgary, Alberta. So I said, "Okay." That night was Kansas City Memorial Hall, Thursday night. And I'm sitting in the dressing room, and as soon as I get in the dressing room, bullshit talks and and walks also. The Kelly twins, Pat and Mike Kelly. Pat says to me, he says, "You know what? You're going up to Calgary. Don't go in the dungeon." I said, "What?" He said, "Don't. If Stu asks you to come down in the basement, don't go in the basement." I said, "Okay, thanks very much." So I got packed up, backed all my stuff. Bob showed me the airport. Me a big hug and stuff like that. I landed into Denver. I flew into Denver first. I was there for about 7 hours, so I didn't hit the fucking sweatshop. I hit the bar. So we had a couple drinks, and I was talking with a few guys that I just met. Not wrestling guys and anything like that, but and they said, "Are you going to Calgary, Canada, Alberta?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, we take some cattle and some horses up there once in a while." I said, "Yeah, what's it like?" Blah blah blah. He said, "Well, they just had they're going to have the Olympics there, the Winter Olympics. They're coming up." I said, "Yeah, I heard about that." So I get to Calgary, and fucking nobody meet me at the fucking airport. Nothing. I pick up the phone and I say, "Stu, where am I going to be staying while I'm here?" "Who's this?" I said, "This is Kerry Brown." You're Bob Brown's nephew." He said, "Welcome aboard. Most of the guys stay at the St. Regis Hotel on 7th Avenue. Just tell them Stu sent you." I said, "Okay, Stu. We have our house show on Friday night, and I'd like you up to the house Saturday. I got a basement with a few weights and a gym down there. I want to kind of feel you out." I said, Stu, I said, I'm checking in. I said, but I don't think I can make it Saturday. Well, okay, I'll see you in Edmonton. So that was the first time that I was invited into the dungeon. And I said, okay, take me to the St. Regis Hotel. So I went to St. Regis Hotel, and Brenda was the desk clerk, and she looked at me, and I looked at her, and it was like love at first sight. But she was 290 pounds, and it wasn't going to happen. So she said, okay, anything you need at all, anything? I said, yeah, okay, thanks very much. So I checked in, and this was I got there Tuesday, and I was doing a house show on Friday, and I just had 3 days, and I think I had $690 US on me. So I knew I was going to work. I knew I was going to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
My contract at that time, Stu offered me $600 a week, and this was in 1980.
I can live off that now.
Yeah, $600 a week. And so you could say we got paid pretty good money. And when I met Stu Friday night, it just clicked off from there. It was the best promoter I've ever worked for in my life, and it was the start of a honeymoon that lasted 10 years.
Yeah. What was Bruce Hart like as a booker?
Asshole. Bruce Hart, he was. You see, you look on TV right now, and you see everything that the WWE is doing. You see the tables, you see the barbed wire, you see gimmicks, stuff like that. We were doing that in 1979, 1980. We were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Bruce would say to me, he'd say, okay, I want you to get slammed off the top rope onto a table. Thus, we have the Dudley Boys nowadays.
Yeah.
If there's no table involved with the Dudley Boys, it's not a match. But in 1980, I was sitting back going, how the hell am I going to get slammed off the top rope onto a table? Easy. Blah, blah, blah. He showed me. All right, he set the precedence for that way back then.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't agree with it because we got by on selling wrestling. I mean, when I put somebody in a sleeper in 1980-81, the people knew that the guy was going to sleep. And when the ref picked up his hand for the first time, picked up his hand for the second time, and then picked up his hand for the third time, and it stopped midway, you got every single person out of their chair slapping their hands together.
Yeah.
Because that was old school. They knew exactly what was going to happen. And tables, chairs, Dynamite Kid, David Boy Smith were busting chairs over each other's head way before anybody did it in the WWE. So I could credit myself. I could actually say that maybe I was a pioneer, but we set the precedence for that. You know, we started it, and every single person that came out of Stampede Wrestling and made it to the big show, made it.
That's for sure. That's for sure. That time period, they were using big weightlifting guys. I think Stampede used Ted Arcidi and Cashmere. Did you work with those guys? Did they work together?
I'll quote you on that. It's Bill Kazmaier, 6 times world's strongest man.
Yeah.
And Ted Arcidi. They used them all right, but it was interjection into the wrestling. They were gimmicks. Kazmaier had just won this world's strongest man in Hawaii. Ted Arcidi, the following year, won the world's bench press.
Yeah.
I think 675 pounds or something was the bench press. And these two guys, I'd be sitting across from them and they couldn't even tie their shoes. They couldn't even fucking untie their shoes. They had zits popping over their fucking backs when they bent over and stuff like that. And they're worried about cosmetics more than you would believe. So finally when these guys got settled down, I mean, their first match, we were in BC. I think we were in Victoria or Vancouver or something, and this is the first time they were supposed to meet. These guys were all walking around the dressing room like they were prize fighters, and it was $1 million turnout. Like they were getting $1 million for whoever won. So Bruce goes to one guy, and he said, "Listen, you gotta be strong." He said, "You're Bill Kazmaier. You gotta be strong. You gotta be tough. You gotta be tough." Kazmaier's all pumped up. He's lifting weights in the dressing room. Then Bruce goes into Arcidi and says, "Listen, I can't have you being weak in this town. Can't have you being weak." "No." He said, "Well, Bill's told me that he's gonna take liberties." "Fuck that motherfucker," he says. Kazmaier, I'm looking at Kazmaier across the room when he's doing fucking jumping jacks, and Arcidi comes out of the fucking dressing room where Bruce had just talked to him, and he goes, "Rrrr," and he pounds against the fucking wall. It looked like something, the Incredible Hulk going against the fucking, one of his tabloid friends. So they go out there, and we're in front of at least 7,000 people. It's in Vancouver, and they have what is not even described. I wouldn't even describe it as a shitty match for the simple fact it wasn't shitty, because I could have shit better than what they had. And these guys are going back toe to toe to toe to toe. So Wayne Hart comes back to the dressing room. He sits down. He says to Bruce, he's, "Fuck, don't ever put me in a match like that again." I'm sitting down there, and there's Ted Arcidi and Bill Kazmaier standing in the hallway going, "Fuck, it was great. Don't you think it was fucking great?" Their first fucking match, and they're pounding each other in the back. I'm going, okay. And those muscle guys, that's the story I have. I have another story with Ron Ritchie and Kazmaier, but you guys get that on the next tape.
What are your memories of Ross Hart?
Ross, technician, squarehead. That was my nickname for him. And I was in the bathroom in Edmonton, Alberta, and he came into the bathroom, and said to me, "Yes, nevertheless, I would appreciate the fact that you will not refer to my head as square anymore." And I said, "Okay." I said, "I'm sorry, squarehead. No, my name is Ross. My head is not square." As he was walking out, I was laughing. So he is a square-headed technician. He looked after behind the scenes, but he always came in to the dressing room, and he'd say, "Fantastic match. I just watched it on the monitor." Or he'd come back and say, "You guys shouldn't even be wrestlers." Some of the young guys, in the dressing room. But basically, just a squarehead. Ross Hart.
You like the rib a lot. Could you tell us about the rib you pulled on Jason the Terrible? I think Bad News Allen was involved too.
Yeah, that's a classic that goes down in the Hall of Fame. The story started. We were going to Edmonton, And Jason the Terrible was in the back of the bus when Stu had his bus on the road. And Bad News Alan was sitting about maybe 9 seats in front of him. I was up front. And Bad News Alan was in a baby blue velour or velvet sweatsuit. So we're sitting there, and I'm listening to this, and I can hear what's his name? I can hear him talking about how he killed a man. So how he took his knife and how he went like this and bladed him and cut his throat and Jason the Terrible. Carl Moffat.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, that's the name we're going to use, Carl Moffat. So I said, I'm sitting back, and I went to the bathroom, and I'm sitting on the john in the toilet, and he said, yeah, he said, I stuck him this way, and I stuck him that way, and so he comes out, and he says to me, he said, do you want to see how I use my knife, Kerry? I said, no, I don't. I don't. So he goes to the bathroom. So I go to news. Bad News Brown. Alan Coage. And I say to him, I said, we're going to rib this son of a bitch. We're going to rib him big time. And he said, okay. I said, I'm going to tell him that your son just opened at Carnegie Hall as the youngest protege ever to play piano. He said, yeah, okay. And I said, I'm going to tell him. I said, I want you to tell him that when my son was 5 years old, he lost his fingers in a lawnmower accident. He had them all chopped off both hands. So he says, okay. And Alan's fucking laughing. Carl's still in the bathroom. So I go back to my seat, and Carl comes up. And I said, Carl, I called him. I said, let me see that knife. Okay. And he said, because Bad News went, just kind of shunned him down, right, as he walked by. So he sat down and he said, Kerry, and he almost talked like this. This is a shoot. Kerry, how the hell do I get on the good side of Mr. Allen? I said, listen, Carl. I said, fuck, man, do you really want to? I said, the guy doesn't like you. No, I really would. I said, well, do you know for a fact that his son is opening tomorrow night at Carnegie Hall? The youngest protege ever to open Madison Square, Carnegie Hall. Really? Yeah. Carl, I'm telling you, he's a protege. I said he's very, very proud of his son. Whoa, wow. Okay, I'll tell him. I said, just go tell him and say congratulations. So I'm having a beer. I take a sip of my beer, and Carl goes back, and he said, I'm sitting up there, and I can hear her in the background. Well, Mr. Coolidge, Mr. Bad News, I'd like to congratulate you on the fact that your son is the youngest man ever to open up at Carnegie Hall. It's Bad News, holding his breath, and he says, Carl, where's that knife that you had? It's right here, Mr. Coolidge, and he pulls the knife out, gives it to Bad News. Bad News just goes, flicks it, grabs Carl by the fucking forehead, sticks it to his throat, and he says, my son lost his fingers on both hands 5 years ago in a lawnmower accident. He's not playing no fucking piano at Carnegie Hall. Well, that's not what Kerry Brown said. So Carl goes back to the back of the bus. Somebody comes back and says, what the fuck happened? And who it was Wayne. Wayne Hart went back and said, didn't you know he's lost his fingers? And he's pumping and pumping and pumping. He said, that fucking Kerry Brown sent me on a fucking suicide mission. Brett starts, he wakes up and he's starting to laugh. And then Carl comes screaming down the fucking bus, and a couple of guys grab him and stuff like that. And they hold him down. They say, oh, just leave it alone. No, he fucking sent me on a suicide mission. And then I sat there and I'm sipping on a beer, and I said to News, I said, you know what? I said, you can't give him that much fucking credit. I said, the guy is not bad. And he said, why? I said, because he went out and he bought a Nintendo for your kid for Christmas. He got no fucking fingers. And News jumped up and everybody jumped on him to hold him back. And there's Carl hiding in the back like that. No, I didn't. So News, they sit News down, and News is looking at me, and he's laughing his fucking head off. And I said, anybody hungry up there? I got some finger sandwiches. And News jumped up again, and all the guys that we had talked to, they jumped him and they fucking held him down. I'll kill you, you cocksucker! I didn't say it, Mr. Allen. I didn't say it. So he was in the back of the bus, and News, Bad News came up to me as we stopped at Mohawk when we got finished. The tour was over. He come in, he said, that's the best rib I've ever seen in my life or ever been a part of. And there's more stories with Butch Moffat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've read on Bret Hart's website, he ranks you one of the top 5 workers he's ever worked. How does that make you feel, and do you have any memories of working with Bret?
I worked with Bret quite a few times. And for him to put me on the website and say I was one of the top 5, that's an honor to me. Every time, even though we were on a guarantee, and with Stu we were making $600 a week in 1980-81, that money was probably 2 or 3 times worth that now.
Yeah.
to this day. But I always went in there and I always gave them maybe twice that much amount of ability. And for him to say that, I'm honored, I'm flattered, and I had probably some of the best matches I've ever had in my life with him, with the British Bulldog, Bad News Brown, Jim Neidhart, I had some good matches with. Davey Boy Smith, British Bulldog, I had some great matches with. The other guys, Owen, I gave him his first match, me and Duke Myers, as the Masters of Disaster. And he was good then until it went to his head. And well, everybody knows what happened to him, but we'll get back to that later on.
Did you ever get a chance to work Dynamite Kid?
In tags, not singly. I remember doing a match on a Friday night, and we went to a 30-minute draw. And then the following, we were in 6-man tags. It was Dynamite, Duke Myers, and myself against Brett, Keith, and Bruce. No, David Boy.
Davey, yeah.
And I remember going 60-minute draw the first week. Then I remember, a 30-minute draw the first week, then a 60, then a 90-minute draw. And we were we were in such good shape. I mean, you could have bounced quarters off our stomachs.
Mm-hmm.
Not like nowadays, we're older and stuff like that. But we had so much fun, and it was chemistry. I mean, when I turned my back on Duke knew exactly what was going to happen. When he turned his back on me, I knew what was going to happen. Dynamite folded into that same chemistry, because we were tag team champions at the time. And I knew if Dynamite was doing a headbutt off the top rope, what my function was. Because it was illegal, I was to get the ref. I got the ref. No questions asked. We didn't have to talk to each other. We just did it, And it was a part of my life. Stampede Wrestling was skyrocketed me to my career, and if I could go back tomorrow and do it, I'd do it all again.
What's the story with Stampede putting the North American heavyweight strap on you?
Well, at the time when the strap was put on me, there was a little bit of conflicting interest in the dressing room. At that time, Mike Shaw, Muck and Singh, was going around and working with Owen Hart. And this is the time when Owen was being primed to go to the Fed.
Yeah.
So Davey Boy said to Stu, he said, if I'm going to put the belt on anyone, it's going to be Kerry Brown. And Stu said, I want to put it on the fat man, Muckin. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. Okay. That match was scrapped that night, on a Friday night. I was supposed to take the belt on a Friday night. Scrapped. So, went out that Muckin went out with Davey Boy, and they had a count out.
Yeah.
Next night in Edmonton, I get to the show, and I go, TV cameras. What's going on? Well, we're taping the show tonight. Okay, that's fine. I go in the dressing room. There's Davey Boy telling me, you're winning the belt tonight. I said, fuck. What are you talking about? I said, you know what they did last night? He said, no. He said, I'm leaving for Japan on Tuesday. The only person I've given it to is you. And I said, okay. I said, let's go knock him dead. Went out there and had probably one of the best matches that I've ever had with him, ever. We're talking press slams, we're talking suplexes, just total. It was the best match I ever had with him. And we went 45 minutes. And at 43 minutes, I beat him for the belt. And I took the belt, and I still got the slack. It's a business, it's a work. I got slack from Muck and Singh. I got slack from Ron Ritchie, who I was working a program with at the time. But the following Friday, because the Harts didn't want the belt on me, I dropped it to Ron Ritchie. But Brett had already been WWF'd. He'd already just got to start. So it's a business. It's a cutthroat business. Everybody knows it is.
I think he told me a story. Davey wanted to drop the strap. He liked working you, and he would actually. Some of the guys would come and give you a Mickey before the match. He'd take crazy bumps for him. Give Browner a Mickey, and
oh yeah.
He'd.
I used to, not so much anymore, well, I can't say not so much anymore. I still drink to this day, but if they wanted a high flyer, Davey Boy, he'd come, and Hercules Ayala, they'd come in the dressing room, and he'd say, "Do you want to take the big one tonight?" And I'd say, "Yeah, okay, whatever."
Give it to me.
So they had me a Mickey of Golden Wedding or 5-star, and they say, "Have a couple." And I always worked if I took a couple shots. It didn't matter if you bealed me from the center of the ring, I'd hit the fourth row. If you took me for a backdrop, instead of just a backdrop that would be maybe 5 feet in the air, I'd take it 25 feet in the air. And Hercules Ayala always came to me and he said, "You want to do the big one tonight?" I said, "Yeah." And he was 6'8". And I'd push off his shoulders, and I'm telling you, sometimes I would land. I could have wrote a postcard by the time I landed. That's how high he pushed me up. So that time that Davey Boy came to me and he said, "Here," he said, "whoop it down thee." He said, "Whoop it down." And John Foley was standing right next to me and he said, "Can I get a bit of that?" I said, "Yeah, whoop it down thee." So we drank, and I went out and as a matter of fact, that time I was talking about when I won the belt, that's when he came in and gave me the shot of whiskey. And it was John Foley, God rest his soul, was always there. I mean, he looked like nothing, but if you got into a skirmish or you got the fans, you couldn't get. And back in those days, we had some times where we could not get from the ring to the dressing room. It would take us 20 minutes, sometimes 15, sometimes 30 minutes. John Foley was always at abreast. And he wasn't a fighter, but he'd poke his finger in your eye and pull your eyeball out. He was. Good guy. Yeah, that's the story of the Mickey. Yeah.
Did you get to work with any of the Japanese talent they're bringing in Stampede? They brought in a lot of guys from Japan, I know that.
Yeah, they had the Mr. Hito was there. I worked with the Strong Machines, all three of those. Mm-hmm. And Andre was the the giant machine. Yeah. But the other two guys, I worked with those guys in Calgary. I worked with Sato. We had Wakamatsu as a manager for us. Basically, Mr. Hito was a local.
Yeah, he was the mainstay there. Yeah.
He was the mainstay there, and they had the Japanese office dealt with him quite a bit to bring the young boys.
Do you think Benoit would have became such a big star as he is today?
Do I think?
Do you think he would have been? Or
I think Chris Benoit, pound for pound, is probably the biggest asset that the WWE has right now.
Could you tell back then though, or you thought he would just be good, or?
When I worked with him, I remember coming back from Japan, and I was going to work for Stu. And Stu said to me, he said, "Okay, well, we got this kid from Edmonton, Chris Benoit. He's been training and stuff like that. We'd like you to fuck him up." I said, "Okay, Stu. Just kind of don't hurt him, but just fuck him up." So that's when that's the night that I became a dolly. I went to the Stampede Corral at about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The show doesn't start till 7.
Yeah.
So I go in, and they said to me, take your clothes off. I said, okay. She was a good-looking honey, makeup girl. Took my clothes off, and I said, can I leave my underwear on? And said, yeah. So I left my underwear on, and they put me in a dress, put a wig on me. I had some nice tits. And they said, you're going to sit, here's your ticket, you're going to sit in the audience till Chris comes out in his match. And I said, okay. So I said, I don't fucking think this is going to work. I went out in a cane, and I had those little tiny things that you pull up to the knees.
Yeah, yeah.
Stockings. I had shoes on. I sat down. Nobody knew me from Adam. I was an old woman as far as they were concerned. Finally, Chris Benoit came out. He was working against, oh God, it was his partner at the time, Beef Wellington.
Biff Wellington, yeah.
Yeah. Working against him, and I hit the ring. And Ed Whalen, God rest his soul, jumped up and said, lady, you can't be in here. And he did not know that I was doing a run-in. Lady, you can't be in here. Davies, Jim Davies,
Yeah.
grabbed him by the leg and clued him in. And he got back on the mic, he said, that's no lady, that's Kerry the Pitbull Brown. And I clotheslined Chris Benoit, and I tore my bicep from my pectoral at that time. And I didn't feel it for about 3 days after, but I clotheslined him, and they still talk about it to this day. And I worked some good programs with Benoit, but yes, did I know? Yes, I did know. He had talent, and I knew exactly where he was going. Mm-hmm. He programmed himself almost like a robot of Dynamite Kid. Mm-hmm. And Dynamite would have been proud of him.
Most of your Stampede days you were in tag teams. Who all did you team with?
Well,
the major ones.
The major ones, when I was tag team champions, we were tag team, North American Heavyweight Tag Team Champions 15 times. That would be Duke Myers and myself. I teamed up with Rip Rogers. I teamed up in the short time that I was babyface. I teamed up with Mr. Hito, Ron Ritchie. Basically, I teamed up with a couple Hearts, but I was never, the limelight was on them. So
you and Duke, you guys did a shot for the Fed. Who did you work there?
That's funny because Blackjack Lanza came into the dressing room and said, "How do you guys want to go over?" And Duke looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, "Who are we wrestling? Are we wrestling these people?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, why don't we use Duke? Why don't you go to the top, and I'll slam you off the top with a crossbody, like a splash, not crossbody." He said, "Okay." Yeah. So we had these star outfits. The shoulders were out to here. They were gold. They were black. Looked like aliens. Mm-hmm. So we wore that stuff out. We get to the ring. There's Owen Hart making his debut in Calgary, Alberta, and Bruce. So we go out, and Lanza has already told us. He said, "You guys are 250, you're 280. Don't go down." Okay. So we go out to the fucking ring. We go out. We just dominate. Kick their ass. Go. Give them a little bit of a comeback. Go into a finish. Lanza comes back in the dressing room. He said, "Fucking excellent. Great, you guys. Hell of a match." Okay. That's just the beginning of it. So Lanza comes in. He pays us. Then It was on a Friday night. Come Monday morning, we go to get our bookings. At that time, we were hot. Me and Duke were hot as champions. Get our bookings. Okay, there's Owen and Bruce. They pulled us right out of the program that we were involved in, and pulled us out of the program. Monday night, we were in Saskatoon. Tuesday, Regina. Wednesday, Red Deer. Thursday, Lethbridge. Friday night TV, Calgary. They beat us every single night, took the belts from us on Friday, on TV, because we beat them, because we were told by Lanza to not give them nothing. Oh, that's a funny story.
If I remember correctly, for at least a week or two, Stampede, they gave you a homosexual gimmick. Whose idea was that, and why didn't it last very long?
Well, Stu had been on, Stu was on holidays, and Rip Rogers and his valet, they were doing the same kind of gimmick as the guy in the Fed now, the homosexual guy.
Rico?
Rico, yeah. They're doing the same thing as Rico. And Stu went on holidays, and Bruce said, okay, I'm going to make you guys, what you're going to be is you're going to be a gay tag team. Why? Because Bruce was pissed off at me for the week before when I was in the ring with him in a tag, and I punched him in the mouth. So this is his way of getting back. So they make us the Midnight Cowboys. So I go up to the house, or no, I didn't even go up to the house because Stu was on holidays. Friday night I get my check, and my check's for $130. So I'm on a $600 guarantee. So it's $130 for what? Why? And Bruce said, well, here's the bill for your pink boots, your pink tights, and your cowboy hat. I didn't order that shit. Okay. So we went around the loop for a week. Stu comes back, and he comes in the dressing room, and me and Rip are about to go out, and he said, I've never seen a 280-pound queer. I said, Stu, it's not my fault. I said, talk to your kid. So Stu walks in the other dressing room, slams the door, nothing but screaming. I went out. I did my last match as a Midnight Cowboy.
Then I think you turned babyface at some point as the working man's hero. Did you like this gimmick? Whose idea was that?
It was Bruce's. Bruce Hart. He found ways to get me into a mood or whatever. I hated it. Made me the working man's hero. I was on the phone to Japan while he was turning me on Friday. And I still get slack to this day, even if I walk up to Gamma Singh. I'll still get slack to this day for the simple fact that the day that I premiered as a working man hero, I was leaving the Monday morning 3 days later for Japan. So what they did is they gave me Gamma on Friday night, and I beat him for the Commonwealth Heavyweight Champion or the Commonwealth Belt. And I didn't tell Gamma that I was leaving on Monday. So when I came back to Calgary, the first person I saw, he says, I'm just here. I said, well, how's things going? He said, I'm dead. He said, you killed me in this town when you beat me and you left. I said, well, I'm sorry about that. But Gamma, I am sorry about that. But I had to do what I had to do. And that worked for a couple weeks. I did the babyface thing, and I hate it. I hate being a babyface.
Did the Harts try to keep their daughters away from the boys?
Obviously not.
That sounds a good point.
for the simple fact that B.J. Ennis, he married one of the daughters.
Jim
Then
Neidhart, and
Jim Neidhart married one of the daughters.
Davy Boy, and
Davy Boy. Dynamite and Brett married sisters, but they weren't family. But no, I guess he never kept them away at all. And my relationship with them was always professional. Was always hi, Holly, how you doing? Hi, Michelle, how you doing? You know, just always professional. Never even thought about that.
You did some shots for the Fed. Why do you think you didn't go to the Fed or didn't get booked? Or
well, when I did the shots for the Fed, at that time, Ted DiBiase was the $1 Million Man, and he had broken his leg, and they were on a Canadian tour. So I did the show with me and Duke, the tag team, at the Corral Center, and then Stu got a call and said, they said to Stu, we'd like for you to send us one of your heels to finish up the Canadian tour because of DiBiase. So okay, well, hey, I'll send you Brownie. So Stu calls me up. He said, come up to the house. I went up to the house. I got my tickets. My tickets were already sent to him. I did Edmonton. I did Vancouver, Seattle, and San Diego. And when I was finished, I was sent back. So it was good. I enjoyed it. The money, I was paid cash every night. It was good for me, really good. You know, because I made on those 4 shots more money than Stu probably paid me in a month and a half.
so after Stampede, it closed down for a while and they relaunched. Did you think it was going to take off again?
No, I didn't. I didn't, for the simple fact that there was a lot of animosity between the family members, and I had seen. I come back from Japan and I ran into Brett in Chicago O'Hare, the Chicago O'Hare Airport, and he had said that my dad's spending my inheritance. So he said, I don't really think it's going to pick up again. And I never went back for I went back for the second time, but not the third time. So no, I wasn't surprised.
Still to this day, rats are calling you, Kerry. Your phone's ringing. Who do you feel was the best worker to leave Stampede Wrestling?
To leave?
Or to be in Stampede when you were there? Like you worked with Davey, Dynamite, Brett, Jim Neidhart, Chris Benoit, Brian Pillman, tons of great workers.
Yeah, and all of them are great workers, but the best of everybody that came out of there, and I've worked with every single one of them, workability, every single one of them, that's fantastic. But the best person all around, wrestler all around, Bret Hart.
And Kerry Brown, we're back here with you. The next thing I was going to ask you is, you got the chance to work Antonio Inoki. How did you get booked to work him?
The first time that I worked Antonio Inoki, he came to Calgary, and then they were running a big show in Vancouver, kind of like it would be like considered today a WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. Is what they were doing, and he said to Stu, he said, I would like to. We were in Vancouver we were at that time of the year, we were doing our tour in Victoria and Vancouver and Kamloops, so we were on the road. So it just came into connection with him. And he said, I would like to have one of your best heels to work against me. And Stu said, that Kerry Brown's a hell of a worker. And I appreciate the fact that Stu told them that I was a hell of a worker. Okay, so I get to Vancouver and they come to me and they said, could you get a little color? And I said, okay, how much you want? They said, well, we want a little bit. So I said, okay. So I went back in the dressing room and I said to the guys, has anybody got a blade? And nobody, there was 12 guys in the dressing room, nobody had a blade. So I said, well, fuck, I'm going in the ring in about 20 minutes. Somebody's got to help me out. Nobody could. So I decided, I went in my kit bag and I took a big razor and I stomped it on the fucking ground. I broke it. I cleaned it off, rubbed it with alcohol, cleaned it off, and I made myself a blade. And these things were Teflon straight razors, honest to God. I went into the match with Antonio Inoki, and he said, Wayne Hart was the referee, he said, okay, it's time. So he smashed my head in the pole and I hit. I cut myself and I hit a nerve. I shouldn't say a nerve, a vein. I hit a vein and I pumped and I started pumping. I was totally red by the time I got back into the ring. It was unbelievable, the juice that I got. So we went into the finish. I got beat 1-2-3, and they brought the stretcher in and carried me back to the dressing room and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there, and I'm covered in blood. And what's his name? Sakaguchi. Sakaguchi comes in, and he hands me an envelope and tells me "Domo arigato." And I say, "Yeah, whatever." Little did I know I would have to deal with him in the future, but he hands me an envelope. I put it in my pocket. I said, fuck, maybe it's just a, thank you note or some fucking thing. So I was sharing a room that night with Cuban Assassin. And I got all cleaned up and stuff like that. And went out and I did my photo op with the Japanese people that Inoki, this is the guy that Inoki beat, and blah, 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 and saw the Band-Aids and all that. I did a little interview, and that was it, and they translated. So we get back to, that night we couldn't get an advance because the steward got a check. So we couldn't get any money. So me and the Cuban, we had our rooms paid for, but we were down to like $15 each. So I said, okay, well, he said, well, I'm going to buy a six-pack. I said, okay, I'll buy a six-pack too. Let's put our money together and we'll have Bloody Blowout. And all you wrestling fans out there, a Bloody Blowout is when you buy a pack of bologna and a package of bread, and that's it. You just put the bologna between the bread and eat. So we got our Bloody Blowout, and I showered and I got out and I said, you know what? I said, Cuban, I said, I should check that package, that envelope they give me. So I go into my pocket and I grab the envelope and I open it up, and sure enough, there's 5 $100 U.S. American $100 bills. Now you have to see how happy we were, because we were eating bologna with no bread, with no butter, no mayonnaise, no ketchup, and we got $500 with us right now. So I said, Cuban, I said, we're rich. He did. He got up out of his bed. He put his pants on. We went downstairs. We had 2 hours and 40 minutes left till the bar closed. And the next morning, I woke up. I had 2 $100 bills on me, U.S., and 4 20s, Canadian. So it was about a $240 night.
That's a good night.
Yeah.
Do you think working in Oki's what got you booked in Japan?
Of course it was. They said to me, they said, would you consider going to Japan? I said, yeah. And 2 weeks later, Federal Express dropped a package off my house in Calgary, and it was a contract. And the contract was for 6 weeks, which was my first tour, at $2,000 a week. The next contract I got was for $2,500 a week, and that was for 3 weeks. So I've been to Japan 10 times, so it's from day one. I think it was beneficial working with it.
What was your first match like in Japan?
For everybody appreciates a shoot, I had to take liberties with a young boy. My first contract that I got, excuse me, my first contract I got for Japan, I went to Dynamite Kid and I said to him, I said, what do I do? Because I had heard stories about them taking liberties and stuff like that. I said, what do I do? He said, if they fuck you up, fuck them up. And I said, what do you mean? He said, if he fucking drops you on your fucking head, drop him on his fucking head. I said, okay, great. So I get there and I'm wrestling a junior guy. His name is Masagoto. And I lock up with him and I put a headlock on him. The next thing I know, he fucking suplexes me right onto my fucking noggin, right on my head. And I'm going, what the fuck's going on here, man? And I get up and I stagger into the corner. So he's coming in and he's fucking hitting me. He's punching me in the side of the face. Thought I was knocked out. Well, excuse me, I wasn't, buddy. I kicked him right in the balls, and my finish was an elbow off the top rope at that time. I kick him in the balls, I pick him up, I fucking power slam him, and I put all my weight on him when he's down. I said, don't fucking move. The referee tells him, he doesn't move. I go up to the top rope, I come off, and I come off with an elbow. Shoot elbow into the sternum. And all you can hear is of the air blowing out of his fucking system. And Peter Takahashi looks at me and he goes, oh, I saw this guy. And I covered him, I hooked his leg, 1, 2, 3. Pinned him, that was it. The next day, I'm on the tour. I get a knock on the door. Here's the guy that I beat the night before coming to the dressing room, and he brings me a bottle of Santori whiskey. President's Choice Santori whiskey. And that's like, maybe if you had to translate it, it'd be about $120 Canadian. So he puts it down, bows and says, sorry, sorry, sorry. Never again did I ever have a problem with a junior. Good.
Who were some of the North Americans on the tours with you when you went to Japan?
Well, some of them, God rest their soul. The Andre the Giant, very, very good friend of mine. Dick Murdoch, Adrian Adonis, Bill Eady, a.k.a. Mass Superstar, Hacksaw Duggan, Ricky Steamboat, Ted DiBiase, Tony St. Clair from England, Chavo Guerrero was on the tour. Doug Summers would be Ryan Blair, Jim Brunzell, Greg Gagne, Hulk Hogan. Most of everybody that's been somebody in this business, you know, and it's funny because up here in Canada we don't really get the exposure that we should. You know, the guys, the talent that we have up here. I mean, Mertzer and Tommy Fujiyami, the photographers that do work with the Japanese magazines, they're always there. You know, they see us tag it up and stuff like that, but we don't get it here in Canada, you know.
Is Japan where you met Leatherface, Rick Patterson?
Yeah. I met him there. Actually, he's from Canada, but he does a lot of Mexico, and we worked a tour with Tony Condello, the promoter that runs Manitoba. We were up north and went to some hell-forsaken holes, but I'd originally seen him. Actually, if you want to get back to it, from day one, I was Leatherface's first match in Calgary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when he was there under his
Rick Patterson.
name, yeah. Rick Patterson. And he was just, he was like 190 pounds, 6'3", 6'4", 190 pounds, 180 pounds maybe. Now the fat fuck, he's 250, still the same size, but he's a very good friend of mine.
You worked a lot in Montreal. Who got you into Montreal? Did Bulldog have a part in it, or no? Bulldog Bob Brown? No.
Bulldog didn't have a part of it. The matches that I had in the Maritimes with Leo Burke and Stephen Pettipaw. Stephen Pettipaw was the Iron Sheik in Montreal.
Yeah.
And
Golden Sheik, actually.
Golden Sheik, yes. Yeah. He was a Golden Sheik. And he told Gino Rito that Rick Valentine, who I was in the Maritimes, and he was available. So they saw some tapes on me, and Stephen booked me in the Maritimes. Not the Maritimes, but Montreal. Stephen Pettipaw is the one that got me booked there. So then, a week later, Leo Burke is booked, and he comes in. But at that time, King Tonga, Abdullah the Butcher, me, and Ken Patera, we were all the top heels at that time. And I decided, well, I didn't decide, they decided that I worked a program with Dino Bravo. So I went in and I started working with Dino, and we sold out the Montreal for him. I beat him 1-2-3. Took me 10 minutes to get back to the dressing room. chairs were thrown at me and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And then, but I was only holding the belt at that time for the simple fact that I dropped it the next month
To the babyface.
to Rick Martel. And then me and Sailor White teamed up, and we became tag team champions with Tarzan Laboutin-Tyler. He was our manager.
Who did you and Sailor feud with?
We feuded with the Britos. Most of our feuds were with the Britos and the Rougeos. And Raymond and Jacques Rougeau,
Yeah.
that you know from WWF, they were baby faces in Montreal at the time. And we had some great matches. I remember Dominique DeNucci and Eduardo Carpentier coming out of retirement
Yeah.
and fighting us. You know, we had matches against them. And then there was Dino Bravo and Rick Martel. We matched against them. Then there was numerous people. But some of those were the most famous ones, you know, that I remember anyways.
What do you think happened to Dino Bravo?
Truthfully,
Yes.
you want the truth? Dino got involved with can't say the wrong people. His wife was a Don's mistress. Don's daughter, not mistress.
Yeah.
And when I talked to Rick Martel, and it was in Regina, Saskatchewan, I talked to him and I said, "What happened?" He said, "From what I know, the door was opened. There was 3 drinks on the table, so it had to be somebody that he knew." And he said they found at least 25 bullet casings at the scene. And he was shot in the back of the head, execution style. And the story to this day, whether his daughter was hiding in the bedroom, is I can't say for sure. I can't say what's going on there, but he apparently died for the fact that there was some coke missing.
Yeah.
This is a shoot interview. There was some coke missing, and I never, when I was there, when I was in Montreal, we indulged, but I never thought he was that high level.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently something was missing, and he took a bullet. Mayhem.
When you were in Montreal, you got in some trouble too with Eddie Creechman. What happened? I think you guys got arrested even.
Yeah, Eddie Creechman was our manager, and Eddie Creechman could not go anywhere without getting an egg, a rock, or anything thrown at him. He never liked to drive his car to the shows for the simple fact that he smoked a cigar, and he and me, Sailor was back at the hotel. Me and Eddie. You want the shoot truth?
Yeah.
Okay. Me and Eddie went to the bar. We started having a couple drinks. Eddie loved his wife. He wouldn't even look at another woman. Never. But me, the fucking hound dog that I'm at, I was looking at another woman. I started talking to her, and I said to Eddie, I said, can I use your room? Yeah, I'll sit there with that drunken Santa White. I said, okay, well, let's go back to my house. And next thing you know, all fucking hell breaks loose. Some guy comes in and says, hey, what are you doing? Who the fuck are you? I'm talking to my old lady. I said, well, I said, sorry. I was just talking to her. Fuck you. Eddie pipes up. You goddamn fucking son of a bitch. How dare you come in here and disturb my fucking night? I'm looking, I go, Eddie, don't. I've got this guy gunned down, right? He's in the scope. I said, Eddie, fuck, leave it alone. Fucking bartender picks up the fucking little nigger knocker.
Yeah.
Sets it on the bar. Excuse me, African American knocker. Sets it on the bar and picks up the phone and calls the police. Next thing I know, we're both pushed up against the wall. Creechman's got a cigar in his mouth, handcuffed. I'm handcuffed. I said, what the fuck did I do? I didn't do shit. So they take us outside, and Eddie goes, I am Eddie Creechman. Next thing I know, they take the cuffs off us. They point towards the hotel. He said, let's go. Go. So I said, Eddie, what happened? He said, it's not who you know in this town, it's who knows you. I said, that's great. We get back there to the hotel. Sailor White's got a case of beer. And we drank some beer. We had fun, man. We had fun.
You touched on it before. In Montreal, you worked as Rick Valentine. In the Maritimes, you worked as Rick Valentine also. Why did you change your name from Kerry Brown to Rick Valentine?
Well, the Rick Valentine started in Montreal. And it started with Andre the Giant. Me and the Giant were sitting, he came in, he was working a program with Dino Bravo. I was working a program with Martel. So he says, the way my hair was and stuff, he said, you know what? He said, you look like Greg.
I seen pictures. You look just like Greg Valentine. So.
He said, you look like Greg. And I said, okay. He said, do you want to hook up and tag up with Greg? And Greg was already in the WWF with Adrian Adonis. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. I'd like to go to the big show. Okay, let me work on it, boss. Always call me boss. Yeah. Let me work on it, boss. So, okay, he left, and I left Montreal, and I went to Japan. So, I look at the posters when we get to Japan, and there's Andre. He's on the card. So we're in Sioux. It's a little town on the southern coast of Japan. And he calls me up to his room, and he says, boss, I didn't forget. I said, forget what? He said, I want you to take pictures with the photographer. Next thing I know, this fucking guy comes out of the bathroom, got a fucking camera. So I'm on top of the Sioux Hotel, drinking wine and beer with Andre. This guy takes pictures of me, facials, and he says, I'm going to come back to the show tonight. I'm going to come to the show tonight and take camera shots of you in the ring. Okay. So I get all those shots taken, and excuse me. And then he comes to the show that night. Then he takes it out after. So I came back from Japan, and I said, the Rick Valentine looked pretty good. Andre is the one that gave me three robes. And I said, okay, I'll use the Rick Valentine thing. So when I went into Montreal, I was Rick Valentine. Maritimes, I was Rick Valentine. And just stuck ever since.
Who was booking in the Maritimes when you were there?
Ibel Dupree.
What was he like to work for?
He was hard, really hard. He when he started his business, he started with posters, and he would hire people to go to all the towns and put posters on every telephone pole. And then when he started to make money, he bought out TV, and he bought TV rights for the whole Maritimes, and he runs a really tight ship. It's so. You don't have a chance to even have a day off because you work 7 days a week. You go from Monday till Sunday and twice on Sunday. I mean, the first time I went to the Maritimes, I bought one pair of boots, okay? And I bought them from Noel Ash out of Arkansas. They were totally destroyed at the end of a 6-month tour because every time I'd air them out, they never had a chance to air out. Never. So when I started going later on, I'd take 2 pairs of boots. One for 1 week and one for the other.
In the Maritimes, I think you feuded with Leo Burke on top. I think you guys were on top. What were your memories from that?
Memories of Leo Burke.
You guys did a chain match, I think, or something like that.
No, I didn't do it with him.
No.
I did it with his brother, the Beast.
Oh, the Beast.
And the Beast was known. He would come out once a year for his weekly chain matches. And, I mean, chain was a chain. I mean, you could tow semi-trailers with this chain. That's how big it was. I could stick 3 of my fingers in one loop of the chain.
That's a shoe.
That's how big they were. But that was only once in a while. Every year, towards the end of the year, it was like
the big gimmick.
Yeah, promoters bring in midgets and lady wrestlers to draw the crowds. The Beast would draw the crowds. And I mean, we're talking about 5, 6, 7,000 people. But my main concern, my main person that I worked with was Leo Burke.
What was he like?
Leo Burke taught me, for this business, everything that every young wrestler needs to know. Leo Burke is a mastermind in this business. I remember, I'll just tell you one short story. I remember him in Halifax, and we had 6,000 people in the Halifax Forum, sold out. I remember him saying to me, "Get a headlock." I was Rick Valentine. Get a headlock. I got a headlock on him, and we called our spots out of that headlock. When I started to call, and that's what taught me a lesson, is always listen to somebody who has more experience. Always listen to the veteran. I started to call the spot. He said, no, relax, lay here. And I said, God. I said, people aren't moving. He said, listen. He said, we've already got them here. They've already paid their money to see us. Let's keep them in the seats. I said, okay. We worked for 90 minutes, 87 minutes, we worked a headlock.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
87 minutes we worked a headlock, and When I beat him for the USA Heavyweight Championship of the World, when I beat him, I pinned him. I could not leave that ring. I had chairs being flung at me. I had people spitting at me. I had people crowding the ring. And I looked down at Leo and he was laughing. And I said, "The fuck you laughing at?" And he said, "We did our job, kid." Exactly, we did our job.
In the Maritimes, did you work with Moondog Moretti or Dirty Dan Denton?
Danny Denton, I didn't work with him. I worked with Moondog. Moondog was, he was substantial in the baloney blowout. Because I told you earlier.
Yeah.
But he would always, instead of baloney blowout, he would buy the wieners a tube steak blowout.
Yeah.
Exactly what it was. And Dan Denton, I've talked to him a few times, but I never really wrestled him. I don't think I ever did.
Mm-hmm. How did you get booked in Puerto Rico?
I got a call from Cuban Assassin, and Leo Burke had the book in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And I got on the phone to Leo and I said, "Yeah, you called?" He said, "Yeah." He said, I think I could use you down here," as remembering Rick Valentine.
Yeah.
So I said, "Okay, what would I be coming under Rick Valentine?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You got your robe?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'll put a new bow of feather on it, just to look like Greg." "Okay. Let's send your tickets." And I said, "Okay." I said, blah, blah, blah. So I got down there, got lined up into a hotel and stuff like that. And I said, well, this is going to be okay for a couple days, but I was only going to go down for a weekend. I got there on a Friday, and I did two TV tapes on Saturday, and they said to me, "Would you like to stay?" I said, "Yeah." I wouldn't mind. They said, "You're going to have to change your style." At the studio, they said to me, "Change your style." I said, "What do you want?" "Well, I want a wild man." I said, "Okay. Okay, you get a wild man." So I went out, and I started throwing chairs, pushing people out of their chairs, smashing people over the head with chairs, tipping tables, get in a ring, bang, 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 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Come back and "That's excellent. That's exactly what we want." I said, "Okay. Okay, that's what you get." So my weekend ended up staying into 18 months. And that's, Leo had left. I was there 5 months without Leo. Leo had left. Mm-hmm. Leo was good, because Leo brought in some of the guys. He brought in Rotten Ron Starr. Yeah. He brought in, the Cuban was already there, Cuban Assassin. He looked after a lot of Calgary guys.
Yeah, Hercules Ayala,
yeah.
I think.
But Hercules now, I understand, is running opposition, so.
Yeah, he worked for them, so.
Yeah.
You got to work Bruiser Brody. What was he like?
Frank was the first time I ever worked Bruiser Brody was Kansas City, and Kansas City territory. We were in Wichita, Kansas, and there was a 6-man elimination tag. Ron McFarland, Billy Howard, me, Easy Ed Wiskowski.
Yeah.
Janetti
Marty Jannetty, yeah.
and Brody. And the winner of the six-man tag went to face Harley Race for the heavyweight championship the following next show. So it gets down to me and Frank, and he pulls me in the corner and he says, "Duck." And I'm going, okay, well, no big guy, no superstars ever called spots with me. Duck, I duck, and he says, "Give me hip toss." So I run to the middle of the ring. He comes, I give him a hip toss. As I give him a hip toss, he says, "Slam me." I slammed him. Covered it, 1-2, kick out, bang. Throws me to the corner. He comes in, he gives me a couple shots. He said, "When I go to pick you up for a slam, small package me." I small packaged him. 1-2, bang, kick out. Had the people on the edge of their fucking feet. So Pat O'Connor, as I'm walking back to the dressing room, Pat says to me, "Fletcher, he must have been in a good mood because he gave you a lot." So I'm thinking, I got back to the dressing room, I got back downstairs, and I'm blowing up like a motherfucker. I'm going like, Frank comes in, he says, "Kid, stick with it." Goes like this, pushes his hair back, and he says, "Stick with it. You're gonna be okay." He tells me this in Kansas City. When I get to Puerto Rico, this is after Frank had been killed, and I'm in Bayamon, and I'm sitting just like I am now, and there's a red spot. I mean a big red spot. And that's where Frank he bled out. That's where he bled.
What do you think happened to Bruce Brody?
He was killed. He went into the shower, and he didn't come out. He got stuck in the shower, and there was another guy, a black guy, that was in the shower with him, that refused to turn state's evidence.
Kayfabed it, yeah. Tony Atlas.
Yeah, you kayfabed it. You had your reason. But Abby's the one that had to tell Frank's wife. And you know what? He was already cremated when Abby told Frank's wife. And you know what? You should have stood up over that little son of a bitch. And you know what? Mr. Gonzalez goes around, comes around. I worked you many a times. Goes around, comes around. And you know why it comes around? Talk about the death of your children. Your wife leaving you. Maybe things are different now, but yeah. Anyways, Frank, you're loved by everybody. I was there. I couldn't get out. But everybody refused to come and work the anniversary shows. Yeah. So you remember that.
So, in Puerto Rico, your big gimmick was you teamed with Eric Embry.
Yeah.
How was that, and who did you get to work?
We worked everybody. We worked the Estradas, worked Youngbloods, Jay and Chris, yeah.
Maybe.
Chris Youngblood.
You were at Cologne also?
Yeah, Carlitos Colon, and his partner was one of the Mexican guys. Yeah, I can't think of the name right now, but we worked all their top talent, me and Eric worked against a couple guys from Florida. They were their champions, and then we were their champions. But yeah, we worked a lot of top talent, and we were there we were on top, I guess, for maybe 10 months.
They put you over for the strap, Eric and you, right?
Yeah.
Who did you go over on? Do you remember?
The first time,
Yeah.
there was 2 partners that I
Okay.
had. One guy was from California. His name was Scott, and he was a bleach blonde and stuff like that. And one Tuesday morning, he didn't show up for TV, and we went back after we did TV. We went back to his house and had the landlord open the door, and he was dead. Yeah, he died of cocaine overdose. That was Scott. I can't think of his last name. Scott was his first name, and then Eric Emery came in, and me and Eric, we beat Miguel Perez
And Carlos Colon, right?
No, Miguel Perez and
Jose Estrada.
no, Estrada was the father and son team as
Oh.
the Super Medicals. So we beat Miguel Perez and they were in the WWF. They were part of that little,
TNT.
yeah, TNT.
Savio Vega. TNT.
Yeah, TNT, yeah. That's who we beat for the belts, and they kept them on us for like 10 months.
And then you did a fire match with Los Medicos or something.
The Super Los Medicos, yeah. Jose Estrada and his son.
How was working a fire match?
Well, I thought it was going to be a lot more dangerous than what it had been proclaimed to us or prescribed to us. It was like they're going to wrap terry towels, terry cloths around all 3 ropes. Then they're soaked with gasoline, and when the bell rings, they set it on fire. Is what they do. But I said to Eric, I said, listen, I said, we're going to be doing spots and we're going to be throwing into the ropes and stuff like that. Why don't we rub ourselves down with Vaseline? He said, not a bad idea. So we rubbed ourselves down with Vaseline, head to toe, just what skin was showing.
Yeah.
And threw us into the ropes, and no fire, no nothing. I got my hair singed, and Eric had 3rd-degree burns on the back of his neck here because they were holding him over the top. So the end of the match, the gimmick for the match was when the fire went out, somebody had to be beat. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
So after Puerto Rico, where'd you go from there? Where did Puerto Rico send you?
After Puerto
why
Rico,
did you leave?
I left there for the simple fact that they got a new booker. And it was, God, can't think of his name right
Skandar Akbar.
Skandar Akbar. And Skandar Akbar came in and found out that I was Bulldog Bob Brown's nephew. So I guess there was heat with Skandar Akbar and Bob Brown from Kansas City days when Skandar got fired from Bob Geigel because of Bob Brown, and he was sent to Sandy Bar to work in Oregon. So he said to me, he said, I got good news and I got bad news for you. He said, I'm giving you your notice. And this is after 18 months. And I had put a lot of seats in the put a lot of asses in the seats. And I said, well, fuck, whatever, you know. Time's running out.
All good things come to an end.
Exactly. He said, but I got good news for you. He said, and I had worked a tag team with Jeff Jarrett in Puerto Rico. It was me and Jeff Jarrett against Carlitos Colon and TNT. And Jeff Jarrett said to me, he said, hey, fuck, I like your style, man. I like your style. It's okay. So he said to me, I got you booked in Tennessee. I said, okay. So I get to Tennessee, and I go down to the arena, and I get stopped at the front door by the police. They said, who are you? I said, well, I'm supposed to be working here tonight. Well, let me speak to Mrs. Jarrett. I don't know who you are. Who do you know? I know Jeff. I was in Puerto Rico with Jeff. Oh, okay, come on in. So I get into the dressing room and I sit down next to Stone Cold Steve Austin when he was still in Puerto Rico. So he's reading a book. I introduced myself, and Jeff comes in and said, man, he said, I didn't think you were coming this fast. He said, my old man's doesn't want to use you because you don't have a green card, because you don't have papers. I said, okay, that's fine. And guys that I was with, the Texas hangmen that I was with in Puerto Rico, were there at the time. So they said, well, what are you doing? I said, well, hey, I'm strapped for cash. I said, maybe I got $3,000 on me. So we'll come and stay at our place. So I went and I stayed at their place, and we ended up, I stayed there maybe 10 days, 15 days, and took a bus back to Winnipeg. And then when I got back to Winnipeg, basically my career for traveling was over.
Through all of this, I've noticed you haven't mentioned AWA. Did you ever work for them?
Yeah, when I first started with my training with Tony Condello, we used to go down there on designated weekends, and we would do TV taping for Vern.
Jobber guys, right?
Yeah, just jobbers. You know, we go down there, and my first match was Greg Gagne. Then Billy Robinson.
How was he?
Billy?
Yeah.
Actually, I got along really, really good with him. I really did.
He's a great worker.
Yeah, and I worked Jesse Ventura, Big John Studd, the Crusher. I remember getting the bolo, the Crusher bolo, top of my head. And I was young. I was only like 20, 25, or not even 25, 22, 21 years old. So it was an experience. It was a stepping stone to what I told you about in this video.
Yeah. You did lots of foreign tours in your career, and you haven't even touched on any of them. One of the major ones was South Africa. Who did you work down there?
I worked for a local promoter. Let me see. His son was Simpson.
Sean Simpson, Shane Simpson, Steve Simpson, those
Yes,
guys?
the Simpsons from Texas.
Yeah.
Sammy Cohen. Sammy Cohen was their father.
Yeah, that sounds familiar, yeah.
That's who I worked for when I went there. But I was booked for Sammy through Gamma Singh. And Gamma had some agents in Durban and Bloemfontein and a couple other towns that I worked for. But it was South Africa was a good tournament. It was a good tour. It was different style because they went on rounds. You would go four rounds, and the babyface would take the second round and the fourth round, and the heel would take the first round, always. And we got into. I was there with the midgets. I was there with Little Tokyo, Cowboy Lang, Little Mr. T, and one other midget, one other little tiny guy. We got into a major car accident there. One of the drivers, a South African guy, was cut in half. I remember the simple fact that I had just buried my child prior to going to South Africa. My baby died a crib death, and the priest had given me a St. Christopher medal, and I had it around my neck. And when they pulled us from the wreck, well, they never pulled me, but when they pulled us from the wreck, there was no blood anywhere around me. I had a fractured ankle, and the other guy was killed, definitely. And the other guys, I could hear them screaming. I could hear them mourning. And little Tokyo said to me, help me, help me. And I was looking down like this because the vehicle was like that. And I looked down and I grabbed him by the arms and I pulled him out. And I took my elbow and I smashed the back window. And I said, okay, I'll get you out. So I pulled him out, and as I'm going up the bank, because we were down maybe 20 feet in a ravine, as I'm pulling up, there's a woman standing there, and she's a nurse. She pulled over because she saw the vehicle go. And she was the nurse at the hospital that we were going to sign autographs for the kids. And the second unit that pulled up was a big army jeep with 10, 12 soldiers. And I remember her saying, you're going to be okay, you're going to be okay. And I remember the soldiers pulling the bodies out of there. And my suitcase, the one I still have to this day, was found at least 160 feet away in the bush from the point of impact.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and you know what? We went back. I went to the towing site, the compound, and there was no blood all the way around where I was. I just had my ankle fractured, caught underneath the other seat, and I couldn't find my St. Christopher medal. It's never been found to this day, never. So it was my baby boys, and they say everyone has an angel. Well, that was my angel. He looked after me.
That's amazing. When you were in South Africa, I've heard a story about you and Sailor White getting into a skirmish. He was your tagging partner in Montreal. What happened?
Well, in South Africa, he had a name, a Strongbow. I think it was Strongbow. And Sammy Cohen wanted to, because I looked a little bit like Sailor White, wanted to use that name. And I said, don't advertise me as Strongbow. Advertise me as Rick Valentine. So I get there, and Sailor White's working for the opposition. There's 2 promotions there. So I come out of a club at about 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and there's Sailor White and his John, his brother. John and me get along great. So I said, you guys want to go and get some breakfast? Yeah. We go and get breakfast. Sailor just keeps sipping from the Mickey, from his Mickey. Gets up, he says, you're not going to use my name, and bam, nails me. I said, John, do I have to take this? He said, no, kick his ass. He deserves it. So we walk outside. I punch him. He punches me again. I punch him a couple more times. Next thing I know, South African police. There's 4 cars cut down on us. And John says to them, he says, not his fault. He hit him. Sailor hits his brother. They both go. I only lived a block away. I end up going back to the house. The next day, front page, the South African Times, the Cape Town Times, or whatever it was. There's a picture of Sailor White and me on the front. We got, and said skirmish in front of American American Cup restaurant. But it did wonders for business.
Oh.
Did wonders for business.
You've worked in lots of foreign countries. I know for sure you worked Lebanon, Malaysia. Who all was working with you on these tours, and maybe another couple countries you worked? You could list off.
Guys I worked with. You want Japan and China and Germany?
Just everything besides Japan. Like, I know you did Lebanon, Malaysia. You said Germany and China. So,
yeah. Well, in China was we had Brian Blair, we had Jim Brunzell, Ed Moretti.
Mm-hmm.
In Germany, I was there with a couple of the Hart boys, Muck and Singh, Otto Vance.
He was running Germany, wasn't he, Otto?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he ran Austria.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he was in the tournament in Germany. There was Kevin Kelly. There was Big John Studd. He was there. God, I can't think of the other names. Well, quite a few of them, of European guys that you wouldn't recognize here.
Yeah.
But American guys, I was overseas with Don Morocco, Ricky Steamboat, Adrian Adonis, Dick Murdoch, Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen.
Did you do in Lebanon or Malaysia? Was it the Nasty Boys were on the tour and maybe?
That was Singapore.
Oh, Singapore.
Yeah, Nasty Boys. Yeah.
And was Don Callis on there too, or
No.
he did? Oh, okay. I guess he wasn't with you. Through all of this, it seems you were always working Winnipeg once in a while. Who were you working for in your home base?
I always the person that started me out in this business was Tony Condello. And I had personal trainers, Puppy Dog Peliquin.
Mm-hmm.
I had Ricky Hunter, Ricky Hunter really, really brought my eyes to light, for the simple fact that it wasn't, anybody could take a bump, but it was cardiovascular.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we would go in the ring and we'd work for 10, 15 minutes and then go out, and I'd do 100 Hindu squats for him. And he said, "Do you feel the burn?" "Yeah, I do."
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, let's go back in the ring." He brought knowledge of cardiovascular training into this business. I mean, I went in there and I adapted to arm drags and headlock takeovers and stuff like that. But he had a real influential start in my career. Tony Condello got me started. Puppy Dog Peliquin is the one that gave me my backdrops and stuff like that and started me in this business. So those guys had influential parts in my career starting.
Did you do any of the infamous Tony Condello Northern Death tours?
Oh yes, I did. The tours from hell. I remember traveling, people, who's ever watching this videotape, traveling 18 hours in a bus and only going 25 miles an hour. Like this. Up and down, up and down. And then getting there, and you think you got a hotel? You find a quiet spot in the gymnasium in the school and lay down. And hopefully you got a pillow and a blanket with you, because there's nothing supplied.
Don Callis was booking for Tony at that time. What was he like as a booker for TV and stuff like that?
This is prior to Don Callis's skit with the
WFWA and
WFWA, well, the
IWA
WWF.
and
It's prior to his skit. I remember Don coming to me at the Rendezvous, which is a establishment here in Winnipeg. And I remember him asking me to watch his match. Tell me what my good points and what my bad points are. So I'd watch his match and I'd tell him. So then when Don got the call to go to the big show, I had the chance of meeting up with him behind the scenes. And I said, how's it going? And his nose was so high up in the air, he probably didn't even know my name. And you know what? I'm going to tell you, Don, who's ever buying this tape, and they know Don Callis, you shouldn't have forgot your friends. Because that's the first thing you do when you make the big shows, you forget your friends.
For a while, you got away from business. What were you doing then?
I worked with the government of Manitoba. I was looking after sexually abused and handicapped children. And I'm still in the process of doing that. I'm just, my biological father just passed away 10 months ago, and I'm just in the process of getting back into that business. I took a leave of absence, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it.
What brought you back into the business?
Pardon?
What brought you back into the business?
It would be for, I guess, a little bit of physical training. Like you're able to be mobile, and you're able to train and stuff like that. But the biggest thing that I came back in this business for was the camaraderie.
You missed the boys.
Yeah, I missed the boys. I missed the boys. And you know what? Sharing a beer and going out and picking up the sluttiest women, that's part of this business. And you get a free workout. So
yeah. Was it hard for you to work after the layoff, like work in the ring?
It was. It was for the fact that I would go out there and I'd do anything that was asked of me, but I wouldn't say anything the next day when I tried to get out of bed and you heard crack, crack, crack. So I was being one of the boys and saying, okay, everything's cool, I can do it again. But there's some mornings I woke up and I said, holy fuck, man, why am I doing this?
You're currently working for the NWA in Winnipeg, Kerry. How's that going for you?
Great. Got a good bunch of talented guys. The promoter, Ernie Todd, is trying his best to book as many shows as he can. Their NWA champion, Rob Stardom, is probably, in my eyes, pound for pound, one of the best I've seen in a long time. And I'm not blowing steam up your ass, I'm telling you that right now. For a simple fact that this guy can move, he can adjust to any style, anything that you want. And he is one of the guys that is in the NWA right now. He's our champion. And another story is I can't get a title shot. Simple fact is I'm about 60 pounds heavier than him. And he's on the other end of this camera, so he's listening to the whole thing. But listen, the guy's a hell of a guy, a hell of a worker. You know what? If he had 5 inches on him, he'd be working for Vince.
So how was your barbed wire match with him? You had a barbed wire match for the first time ever in your life after 20-something years in the business. The kid asked you to do a barbed wire match. How did that go for you?
Scary. You know what? They had pumped it for weeks, a couple weeks prior to this. They had pumped it. And
a month.
At least a month. And I said to myself, what the hell am I getting into? I have done every kind of match in the world. Fire matches. I've done tape fist matches. I've done chain matches. I've done cage matches. I'm going, this is the first time that I'm ever going to do a barbed wire match. And my concept, my thoughts was the whole ring is just wrapped in barbed wire. When I got out there, they only had a couple strands around 2 ropes, and I said, this sucks. So, but my partner, Rob Stardom, the guy I was against, he went out there and did a fantastic job.
What are your future plans in the business and in life in general?
Life in general, I think really I'm going to dedicate my life to helping kids and working with them. And the business, I just want to one day get a title shot at the NWA championship and hopefully go undefeated and retire.
What do you think of the business now, Kerry?
The business now hasn't changed much from what it was years ago. You have to, 10 years ago, when we walked down the street, or I went to the Winnipeg Arena and talked with someone, and you said kayfabe. That was kayfabe. That meant it back then. But now, with sports entertainment, kayfabe is a dying word.
Do you miss kayfabe and the whole territory gimmick?
I miss the territories. I miss the word kayfabe, because when you would walk into a room and if there was 10 people in there and 5 of them were wrestlers, you could say kayfabe and 5 would understand you. Now you walk into a room and you say kayfabe, they all understand you. So I miss the territory. I miss the kayfabes. I miss the camaraderie with the guys. And I just, working for the local promoter at my age, just, I want to do it. Mm-hmm. I love this business till the day I die.
Did you see lots of drug and alcohol abuse back in the day?
Lots, yeah. Lots.
What do you have to say to some of the local guys who say you're just a washed up old drunk who never made it anywhere, Kerry?
Well, I can relate. There's a lot of people out there that can call me a washed up old drunk. Okay, well, I drank a lot in this business. A hell of a lot. And I still will to the day I die. But you have to understand that some of the things that I've went through, some of the things that I've done, maybe would warrant the fact that you busted a beer open at the end of the night. Mm-hmm. I've been shot at, I've been stabbed. I don't wish that on anybody. But I'm able, and I have a few people out there that I think stand behind me. I can still put a pair of boots on and go into the ring and give you something. If you want me to give, it depends on what you pay me. If you want me to leave your tongue hanging out at the end of the night, I can do that. If you want me to sit, if you want to sit there and let your popcorn go stale, I can do that too. So if anybody wants to call me a washed up drunk, well, that's all right. But I hope every one of yous look good as I do when you're 50 years old.
Is there anybody out there, Kerry, that you wish you would have got a chance to work? I know you've worked a lot of good guys. That's why I'm just asking.
I would have really, really liked to have a match with Kurt Angle. Mm-hmm. I'm not a shooter, but I would like to just have a match with him.
He's a hell of a worker. So.
Yeah. I mean, they like Stu Hart told me one time. He said, anybody in this room that can't have a match with Kerry Brown is not a worker. He said, Brownie could go in there with a broomstick and I'd buy a ticket. I'll never forget that, Stu. God rest your soul. But you know what? I'm still trying in this business. Still trying.
Do you have any regrets for working in the business instead of taking a 9-to-5 type job?
No, not at all. The only regret I have is one that Bob Brown said to me when I first went to Kansas City. He said, give me $10 every week out of your check. I'll invest it for you. And if I had to give him $10 every week, I'd have probably had a lot of money. I think investing my money would have been the downfall in my career. But if I had to do it all over again, if I had to sleep with every woman that I slept with, if I had to call some of them still to this day, I think I'd do it. I wouldn't change it for a minute.
That's great to hear, Kerry. Right now we're going to do every shoot. They do a name association, so I'm going to shoot out a name and you tell me either a little story or what you think about him. We're going to start off with a legend, Ric Flair.
Diamonds.
How about Bret the Hitman Hart?
Bus trip to Edmonton broke down.
Okay. The Dynamite Kid.
Pound for pound, toughest man I ever met.
Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog.
Recognized my talent and said something about it.
Andre the Giant.
Good friend.
Antonio Inoki.
Japanese promoter.
Hulk Hogan.
Laid back, but if he liked you, he'd look after you.
Vince McMahon.
Only had supper with him one time. Sat down, he picked up the bill. Not a bad guy.
Bulldog Bob Brown.
My uncle, I cried at his funeral. Just, Bob Brown was Bob Brown.
Harley Race.
Super, super individual. The man stood for what this business is about.
Test.
Asshole. Just total asshole. I mean, I remember him coming from Edmonton to Winnipeg, working at a rendezvous club, and asked me to watch his match. And I watched his match, and he come back and said, how was it? I said, you good. I said, you're going to go. And I said, you're going to go places. You got the package. Went to the WWF show. Mentioned his name. He was standing no further than you were. Shook his head, walked away. Like I didn't exist.
Bruiser Brody.
Frank was a loving father, a loving husband, and he didn't deserve to get shanked.
Owen Hart.
I gave Owen his first match, me and Duke, in Calgary, Alberta, and Owen had an attitude, and I really couldn't wish him dead, but what happened to him, happened to him.
Brian Pillman.
Brian me and Ron Starr sat in the car with Brian Pillman and said, Brian, get your ass out of here. You're Bruce's stepping stone. Get your ass out of here. And 6 months later, he was in WCW.
Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho, very, very good guy. Winnipeg boy.
Mm-hmm.
Super individual. Worked with him at least 5 times. Good guy, very good guy.
Chris Benoit.
Chris Benoit tore my bicep when I was dressed as a woman in Calgary, Alberta. Tore my bicep from the pectoral muscle. I still have pain to this day. Chris, if you're watching this, if you ever see this, do you remember the time when I was dressed as a woman?
Who doesn't?
You remember that?
Stu Hart.
Stu Hart gave me probably my biggest break in this business by believing in me, and always stood beside me. Always believed in me. Always. I was his boy. I was Brownie. I was the hell of the. I got a hell of a heel, and his name's Brownie. It was never Kerry. It was always Brownie, and I love that man to death.
What about Kerry the Pitbull Brown?
Myself, hope I live for another 20, 25 years. I got into this business for the simple fact that my uncle asked me, and I loved what I did. I loved the traveling, the millions and millions of miles that I traveled. I loved meeting the people, and I just, if I could turn back time, I would be right in your living room right now, if I could turn back time.
Kerry, it's been a pleasure to go down memory lane with you. I sat here marking out, and do you have any last comments to the viewers here?
I just want you to look forward to getting this tape, because there's another one coming. And the guy that's looking through the camera right now, he's going to do the other one. And I've got stories I can tell you people what the real wrestling world's like. But anyways, you take it easy, and we'll talk to you soon.